If there is one thing I think all South Africans agree on, and I admit there isn't much, but one thing we all agree on is that electricity prices in South Africa is way too high. The fact of the matter is that most people nowadays are struggling just to keep the light on, not because there is no electricity to do it, but because the more lights you have on, the higher your prices will be, and there are a lot of people that are now priced out of the market. The big question, the question that every single one of us keeps asking is why? How did South Africa go from being a country with the cheapest electricity in the world in 1994 to now being one of the most expensive countries in the world? Especially since just a year ago, we were still struggling with load shedding. We had a power utility that couldn't produce enough electricity to keep the lights on, and yet our electricity bills continued to go up even during load shedding. It was absolutely astounding. It was as if Eskom was saying, hey, since we can no longer provide you 24/7 electricity, we want to make the same as if we did. And so they just kept increasing the prices. To give you a bit of an idea of just where the prices are today and where they were just 30 years ago, this is the price increase for electricity since 1994. The actual tariff you'll see there is in red, and the inflation-linked tariff, if it kept up with inflation, is the one in blue. How nice it would have been if we actually stayed on blue. But it gets so much worse when you actually look at this article from My Broadband. This was back in 2020, where they actually revealed the Eskom electricity pricing. And you look at this chart over here, and you see year after year. So from 1994, we're paying about 44 cents per kilowatt hour. It's, of course, inflation adjusted to 2020 pricing. So, that's better than what we're paying right now, but still, it's good. Then you actually see from about 1998, you see a fall in the electricity prices all the way up to 2005, where you see a slight incline, a little bit of a decline, and then Jacob Zuma happens to the country right here in 2008. And from there, you see 44, 55, 67, 80, 88, 90, 91, 94, 96, 99, 99, 108, 110 cents per kilowatt hour. As you can see, the increases are absolutely astonishing. So why exactly are we paying this much for electricity? What is going on, and how can it be stopped? Well, the answer to that isn't as easy as you might think, because there's a number of factors that play into it. Load shedding certainly had something to do with it. I still don't quite understand, and maybe someone can explain this to me as if I'm 5, why the citizens have to pay for a failure of the state when the state knew in 1998 already that Eskom was not generating enough electricity to accommodate all of the people that the government wanted to connect. Clearly, all of this is the fault of the ANC, and yet we were the ones ending up paying for this magical blunder. But then it's stuff like this that really starts to grind my gears. Now, all of you should know this. Most of you will already have this. Every single month, you go on your banking app and you buy electricity. You pay for it and you enter the number into your meter. The meter spits out a disappointing figure that tells you that you've just wasted a lot of your money on not that much electricity, and then you hope that you will actually make it through the month. These are called prepaid meters, and every single person has them. We now have smart meters that's coming out, although I'm not entirely sure what makes them smarter than the meters that we have already. Well, turns out these meters are actually a big part of the problem, with Eskom estimating that they have lost about 8 billion rand a year to, well, two things. First are non-paying customers. At least that's what they call them, non-vending customers. Nice word of saying these are people who installed their meter, bypassed the meter, and is now getting free electricity for life. Of course not. And then you have another problem, which is ghost vending. Ghost vouchers, as they call them. These are from managers who work inside Eskom. Eskom themselves don't really want to admit that this is in fact happening. And there's a number of articles that actually go over this, that explain just how deep the problem and the rot lies within Eskom, but there's literally nothing that Eskom can do. This chart shows just why that is happening. You can see the insane municipal growth of debt to Eskom, and a big part of that is because of these non-vending customers, or thieves, shall we call them. You have managers within Eskom that print these vouchers on specialized machine equipment that Eskom themselves built and then recalled and then was stolen from Eskom. Eskom, of course, didn't want anyone to know because that would be embarrassing. And so they just kept quiet. And these managers quietly turned their theft into multi-million rand empires, with some of these making anywhere from 150 to 500,000 rand a day on ghost vouchers. The government will never see this, but you and I are, of course, paying a hell of a lot more for our electricity because there are millions of South Africans who aren't paying for it at all. That's not to even speak of the amount of South Africans that are legally not paying for their electricity because of our government and how redistribution works. Taxpayers have to pick up the bill for those who don't work, don't contribute, and also don't pay taxes. So, that also adds to it because Eskom still wants the money for the power that they provide. They're going to take it from the people that can actually pay for it rather than taking it from the people that are using it. But it gets worse. The stuff that's happening with the metering is really, really bad. And you still have municipalities like Pretoria, for example, or Tshwane saying, no, they don't care. This is not a problem in their municipality, which really just tells me that even the municipalities are embarrassed about being one-upped by the criminals in South Africa. But then you get to this, where you realize that the average Eskom employee is now being paid 1 million rand a year. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that every single employee is being paid 1 million rand a year, but when you put all of it together, including all of the remuneration packages, as well as the benefit packages that they get, it's about 1 million rand per year. Now, Eskom says that this new figure is actually a result of a couple of things. So one of the big factors here was higher production bonuses of 1.2 billion rand. These are bonuses for more production, except when you actually look at it, you realize that production isn't anywhere near where it needs to be, especially not if we're talking about paying out bonuses. Bonuses are paid for doing exceptional work. Eskom's energy availability factor still hovers at the first half of this year, hovered at around 50%. And in the second half of this year, it has increased to about 67%, although we don't know yet, because monthly figures show 70%. But that's just, actually, it's not even monthly, it's weekly figures that show 70%. But that's just weekly. We don't know yet what's going to happen. And breakdowns is usually where this thing breaks and where we really see it go down. So we're going to know by end of next year end of this year, just how bad Eskom has actually performed. But Eskom is still paying out these giant bonuses to people based on a weekly energy availability factor, which is absolutely insane. Of course, Eskom will also make the argument that, hey, there's no load shedding, so clearly these people deserve bonuses, but they won't account for the fact that there's no load shedding because you guys destroyed the economy. And because there's no factories that's actually using the electricity, of course, you're not going to have any energy problems as a result of that. But anyway, so another factor was Eskom's implementation of a 7% salary increase for all employees up to general management. And then lastly, Eskom increased its total headcount from 40,000 people working there to now 42,000 people working there, which is sort of this is just how socialist governments work. They just employ more and more people because somehow that means something, right? A job is still a job, even if the taxpayers are the ones paying the salary. Now, Eskom explains all of this away by saying, hey, boys, we just posted our first profitable year, only it's not a profitable year. As my broadband says here, although the power utility recently reported its first full year profit after tax since 2018, it would have been a 38 billion rand loss were it not for a 64 billion rand taxpayer-funded bailout. So Eskom is celebrating all of these victories that they've had, in spite of the fact that millions of South Africans are stealing electricity and millions more are getting free electricity. And Eskom needed 64 billion rand from the taxpayer on top of all the taxes that we are already paying to Eskom. Because yes, Eskom is a state-owned enterprise. Therefore, all of the money you pay for electricity is in effect taxes on top of the taxes that you're already paying and then the taxes that you're paying for the bailouts. So Eskom would have actually had a loss again. But of course, they don't have to say that. This is profit. We see this as a great thing. So my broadband introduces all of the men behind the 70% EAF, energy availability factor. This is weekly, not monthly or even yearly, which is yearly is the one that you really want to look at. Because as I said, breakdowns can happen. Next week, there can be a breakdown of 4 power plants, and that will tank the energy availability factor, right? And it could plunge us back into load shedding should something like that happen. So you really want to know over the course of a year, but Eskom is celebrating this. And of course, Eskom is also celebrating in real time by going, hey, guys, last year we paid each of you, these are these men, by the way, here, we paid each of you 12 million rand. How's about we give you 20 million or 22 million rather? So you could really celebrate. I just don't understand. This is a company that is in incredible debt. We're talking about 500 billion rands worth of debt. This is a company that without a taxpayer-funded bailout would have made a 38 billion rand loss. And yet the company decides to give its directors a pay boost of almost 100%. I don't understand this. Very few people in this world deserves to have 22 million rand being paid per year, right? Very few people. Least of all government employees. Like, I don't understand, because you and I are paying for this, just FYI. It's not Eskom that's paying for this. It's not the government that's paying for this. This is us. Our tax money goes to Eskom in bailouts as well as in fees that we pay to Eskom. The fees that are incredibly high. And then Eskom uses these incredibly inflated 2,000% higher than 1994 in order to pay their directors a salary of 22 million rand a year. And then they go, see, we made some money this year. It's like, yeah, after we bailed you out, you bastards. It's insane. It should not happen. And this should be a much bigger story than what it currently is. If you want more people to know about the absolute scumbaggery that is happening at Eskom, please consider hitting the like button. If you don't like it, hit the dislike button. It's up to you. It's free of charge. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons as well as the YouTube channel members for continuously supporting this channel. If you want to become a supporter of the channel, just hit the link in the description down below or the join button right below this video. I'm moving towards 50k subscribers. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed what I do. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.